Hello, I'm James Agonix and welcome to Asia Pacific Outlook. Well, India's finance has announced a panoply of economic and tax reforms and promised billions of dollars of investment for infrastructure in the first full of the Narendra Modi government since it was swept to power in last year's election, pledging change, growth, jobs and genuine effective upliftment of the poor. Arun Jaitley has stuck to the existing 2014-15 budget deficit target of 4.1% of GDP, but says he will delay achievement of the 3% target by a year and meet it only in 2017-18 in order to boost investment. Well, for more on the budget and the outlook for India's economy, I spoke with Rohini Kappadath, Director of Cross-Border Business at Pitcher Partners. Rohini Kappadath, look, thanks very much for your time today. Now, Mr. Jaitley told Parliament on Saturday that the credibility of the Indian economy has been re-established with this budget. Is that something you'd agree with?
Well, yes, I would have to agree with that. This budget has not promised any big bang measures. It's a politically honest budget. It's realistic. It's sustainable. I think the government has indicated and demonstrated that they're serious about the business of reform. But they need to do this in incremental steps. And the series of incremental steps will eventually lead to a cumulated effect, which they're expecting to see kick in around, in about 18 months from now, which is when the investment cycle, the foreign investment cycle, is also expected to kick in.
Let's talk about one of those key steps, and that seems to be tax reform. He's announced a GST will be put in place by April next year. They're replacing a whole plethora of smaller taxes, and it does seem to be something that business has been particularly supportive of.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the Indian tax system has been draconian. It's unwieldy administratively, and what they've recognized is that foreign investors are really not going to continue to invest in the country if they're not confident about the tax system. So yes, we're also seeing a gradual reduction in the corporate tax rate from 30% down to 25% over a period of about 4 years. We're seeing that the wealth tax is being abolished. That's going to be replaced by a 2% surcharge on super wealthy individuals. These are all moves that are being welcomed by business. But more importantly, it's the adversarial nature and the culture of the Indian tax departments that is being addressed here as well. And we're all hoping to see a much more friendly and pro-business tax department.
You've mentioned foreign investment. How focused is the Modi government on increasing the level of foreign investments into India?
Well, clearly this is a key point in their policy. They've always been about growth, about development, about attracting foreign investment, about creating the environment that foreign investors would see as being one not only attractive but also risk-free. So there have been a number of measures adopted by the government that address the issue of ease of doing business in India. We're seeing the single window clearance as well, that sort of eliminates the need for multiple permissions being sought for the setting up of projects. The Modi government, I think, has a very good track record in this particular area, and foreign investors who are currently investing in the country will probably be faced with a much more cooperative, supportive and welcoming government.
How central is infrastructure to that plan? Because that did seem to be a major pillar, if you like, of this budget.
Clearly business has to happen in an environment where there's power, where there's infrastructure, where there are skills. Infrastructure is therefore one of the three key pillars of this government, but they can't do this with domestic capital alone. They need foreign investment, and they're also revitalizing the PPP model, the public-private participation model, and inviting projects. Another innovative thing that they're doing is that they're creating these pre-approved investment packages which can be plugged and played by investors, and that they'll have a power project, for example, where all the approvals are already in place, and that will be auctioned off to bidders who might wish to invest in that project. Again, that gives people the assurance that this project, once they buy into the project, it is assured of being implemented.
Obviously, talking about the positive out of this budget, what, from your point of view, has been missed? What issues aren't being addressed that need to be?
Many have said that the budget has not gone far enough, it's not reformist enough. Clearly they've not addressed the issue of land reform, labour reform. They've not addressed the issue of reductions in subsidies. So India has a very high subsidy bill, $40 billion go in food, fuel, fertilizer subsidies and so on. And that is something that the Modi government is not willing to tamper with at the moment. I mean, they need the support of their constituents. And given the loss in the recent loss in the Delhi elections, which might have come as a shock to many, BJP secured only 3 out of 70 seats. 67 seats went to the Aam Aadmi Party. I don't think Modi, who may be a reformer at heart, is also quite wedded to the idea of being a popular prime minister. He's probably not ready just yet to rock the boat to the extent that it might have to be in order to deliver the big bang reforms that many are looking out for. But I think that we need to give him time, and in about 18 months' time, when the fiscal deficit is well and truly reined in, when inflation is steady at the under 5 mark, I think that we will see Modi becoming more aggressive in his reforms. He does need to also secure the support of the upper house. There are some other state elections coming up, West Bengal, Bihar. So once again, Modi has a lot on his hands in terms of winning some crucial seats in the upper house in order to ensure that his reform agenda can be implemented smoothly.
Because that's the difficulty now at the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the opposition has control of the upper house. So it's all very well and good having big reform ideas, but if you can't get them through Parliament, which is obviously an issue in Australia you could point to, then it doesn't count for much.
Correct, and we saw the evidence of that with land reform bills, that sort of rejection at the upper house level, and they've had to sort of navigate through that process. I mean, ultimately, the Indian system does give the Prime Minister considerable powers to make the changes he needs, but he does have to bring his party room, his constituents along with him. And this is a party that actually has its roots in a nationalistic, socialistic sort of agenda. So we can't completely stray too far away from that too quickly. I think Modi just needs a little bit of time to really settle the bureaucracy and give continued confidence to the people around him, which he will do by addressing the skills issue, by creating jobs. And here again, the Make in India campaign was the one that he was putting a lot of faith in to create new jobs, new manufacturing jobs in India. There again, I think they've hit a bit of a stumbling block, and they've realized that the volume of jobs that they need are not going to be created by big business. They're now shifting gears and looking towards supporting medium-sized businesses, the entrepreneurs. So they're really now trying to create an army of job creators rather than job seekers. Again, Modi knows that he's got to really deliver on some of his early promises before he can start to really make massive changes to the system.
This budget seems to have been well regarded, well received, if you like, from business. So one of the concerns that keeps popping up seems to be, from the business perspective, a lack of detail, and in particular whether the government is actually going to have the funds to fulfil some of these promises, some of these big reforms.
Yes, well, I mean, India does have a revenue deficit. Only 3% of people pay tax in the country. So no doubt that this government is going to have to address the revenue side as well, just as much as it does expenditure. they are also now cracking down on black money. I mean, India has a huge parallel economy, and now jail terms of up to 10 years are being talked about with respect, in relation to people who, who have undisclosed foreign assets and local income. So here again, another sound and solid measure by the Modi government to tackle the issues that are underpinning the sustainable growth of the Indian economy.
ANZ Bank has consolidated its Asian private banking and wealth unit.